Marvel as a brand is one that will forever hold a special place in my heart. I love Marvel. I've watched so many of the movies, the TV shows. I even have a pretty good Marvel collection. This was relatively expensive, but none of them have ever had as much of an impact on me as Marvel Contest of Champions, a decade-old mobile video game that for some reason I fell in love with, and I have played ever since. Well, that actually was the case until January of 2026, when I ultimately decided it would be best for me to take a step back for a few months. Now that those few months have passed, I had time to retrospect on the game, and now coming back after all those months, I can safely say, what is this? And no, that is not me reacting as if the game has had a downward spiral ever since I left. No. A lot of these issues have been in the game for years at this point, and I think the large community can agree that a lot of issues with this game have been here for years, but I haven't really seen that many videos as to why this game is considered to be in such a low light right now. But that's why I'm here. I wanted to make a full-length documentary critiquing a bunch of issues that I had with this game, and after months of tirelessly going through a bunch of different ideas to find the perfect format for this video, I came up with 5 different reasons as to why I think that this game is currently struggling badly. These will be in timestamps below for your viewing pleasure. Now, before we get into this video, a small disclaimer: this is not meant to be a hit piece video on Marvel Contest of Champions whatsoever. This is going to be a constructive, often satirical video going over points that I currently have with Marvel Contest of Champions. I have nothing but praise for this game and its developers. When I went to Summoners Fest, everyone there was lovely to meet. Bang, bang. But I do have issues with this game, and that is why I am here to talk today. Now, the last thing before we get into the actual video itself, I would normally tell you to leave a like and subscribe, but in this one, because I put a lot of effort into it, I want you to watch to the end, and I hope to earn your subscription by the end of it. And if I don't, then, oh well, whatever. Now, without further ado, take a seat, have some popcorn, and drink some water because staying hydrated is good for you, as I go over why Marvel Contest of Champions is an absolute disaster of a video game.
My money give up, my money talk. Long as I really don't want my money this for you, my money do this. Yes, shut up. I already heard you, I don't wanna ask you.
Now, before getting into this segment, I think it's pretty important to explain what I think Marvel Contest of Champions is as a video game, and it's pretty self-explanatory in my opinion. So you know how you have a bunch of grindy games where it's like one key goal where you try to be the best among the top? I think Marvel Contest of Champions is somewhat like that. Sure, you have game modes where you want to be in the top, but there's so many of those nowadays that I consider Marvel Contest of Champions to be a variety game similar to Fortnite and Roblox.
No, you're not gonna call me no bitch, because I'm not none of these ones. I'm gonna whip your ass. I'm not none of them.
Okay, I'm kind of getting off topic here, but what I'm trying to get at here is that this structure of game is really the backbone to a lot of current issues that I face with Marvel Contest of Champions as a whole. You could have probably figured this out because of the chapter that it's in, but variety game modes like this really lean into the quantity over quality mindset. Think about other games like Roblox and Fortnite. They have so many catalogs of games, and a lot of them vary on quality. Granted, those ones are done by completely different developers and whatnot, just like fan-made stuff. Marvel Contest of Champions is different in that regard because it is a mainstream game that is every game mode published by the developers themselves. And if you look at every single game mode ever, there is a very drastic difference in what I would say the old game modes focused on as opposed to the newer game modes. The older game modes very much leaned on the aspects of Marvel Contest Champions and leaned into more gameplay elements such as Alliance War, Battlegrounds, and Alliance Quest. But the more recent modes are trying to branch out and capture very different variety of game modes. So they're trying to capture as many different things as possible without really focusing on whether or not they fit into the core aspects of Marvel Contest Champions. I mean, just look at the Dimensional Arcade. I mean, who approved of this? To me, the Dimensional Arcade is kind of an extreme example where it feels like Kabam more so thought, can we just branch out into literally anything instead of really thinking about what actually fits into the game? I mean, like I said, that was a very extreme example because they don't fit into the game at all. Hell, they don't even go into the same browser. But what about two game modes that did release recently that do fit different gameplay aspects of this game? That being the Poker game mode and the Coliseum game mode. I'll talk about Poker first because sure, it has that gameplay element that you're missing from stuff like Dimensional Arcade. However, I think this one's a lot more insulting in that sense because it feels very tacked on, as if Kabam said, wait, this doesn't really feel like Marvel Contest of Champions. What can... I got it. Stuff like this just feels rushed and doesn't feel like they actually sat down to think about how best to incorporate this, because I think you can make it work, and the problem is it just feels way too tacked on. Now, the best of these three that I'm going to talk about here is, of course, Alliance Coliseum. Now, I know what you're probably saying. Why am I talking about the Alliance Coliseum? This one is clearly a lot better than the other two I previously mentioned. It's clear that Kabam put a lot more tenderness and care into this one comparatively. However, I do feel like there are a couple issues that I personally believe come down to a lack of quality. So here is the first one that I found, and that was, it just doesn't feel like everything was 100% playtested. So obviously on release, the ability accuracy reduction prevented stuff like the sleep. Stuff like that happens. I'm not going to stem too far into it. I don't really care about that. My biggest gripe, however, is the complete repetitiveness of the mode. Yeah, I know what you're saying. The entire point of the mode is to drain health bars until you inevitably die. I know. However, that's not accounting for the times that you have to go back into the fight after you die. I feel like there's just way too many of those moments, especially in the solo Coliseum. 80 points per, and there's 4 of them. That's 240 health bars, and I know you can say that's like a long-term thing, but I feel like it just doesn't really compensate for the level of fight. If you want to compare this to Necropolis fights, those are like 10-minute fights. The average that I was getting for clearing 80 health bars of this comes down to like 30 minutes, which is significantly longer than your average Necropolis fight. So probably some of the longest content you're doing for a singular fight. And I keep reiterating this fact, but I feel like with a couple more playtests, it could have gotten to a point where it feels valid for the amount of time you're spent in that fight in particular. It's just kind of frustrating that it feels like not everything is being playtested to the absolute maximum I feel like it could be, but I can't really blame them because this game runs way too quickly for my liking. Now, to really understand what I'm trying to get at with this point here, here's a little infographic of major releases that I think permanently affected core aspects of this game. As you can see, it was very slow in the early years, and then it really started to pick up pace in 2022 to 2023, and as of 2025, it has gotten so fast to the point where some game modes have released literally within a few days of each other. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg here. You gotta also remember that this game gets updated monthly, and that also includes every single EQ, different story quests, maybe a different game mode like Necropolis or whatever. Also, you have 2 champions releasing every month. That is set in stone. That never changes. I mean, it really hammers down the quantity aspect of this game because 2 a month is absolutely absurd because you got to think about how much time it takes to do one character to begin with. And on top of that, we're also getting buffs every month, and you might think that it's like simple, like a couple of these are just like number tweaks. That still takes a lot of time and effort, don't get it wrong. I'll talk about champion releases in the future because trust me, there is a lot to talk about here, but I think that the amount of champions we get per month on top of new content is absolutely absurd. This game moves way too fast, and I don't think that the team is able to compensate for it. I personally believe they stretch themselves way too thin. So now that that's out of the way, I think it's time to talk about the biggest issue that Marvel Contest of Champions faces as a whole. If you know anything about Marvel Contest of Champions, you should be well aware about the fact that grinding and spending are by far the most important things when it comes to this game's economy. And I won't be the first person to tell you that both of these elements have components that feel very inflated. So there are two things to note here. One, like I said, Marvel Contest Champions is a variety game. But secondly, it is a very competitive game. So naturally, these two elements are going to collide, where you get rewards in the brand new game mode to naturally progress the life cycle of the game. The problem that I have here is with the recent surge of brand new game modes, it becomes a lot more frustrating to maintain every single game mode to keep a competitive edge. So let's start off with Battlegrounds, because you have to do that in order to get rewards every single month. But oh wait, the month started. Did you do the event quest? Did you do the Elder mode attached to the event quest nowadays? Did you do the side quest? The objectives related to it? Speaking of objectives, that's a brand new Karina's challenge I see. Okay, now that that's all done, let's go to the events tab. What all do I got? Oh, a solo event, an alliance event, a realm event. That's new. How long does that take? Oh, 1 month. Okay, that's a lot of time. Okay, time for a little bit of a breather. Oh no! I forgot to do the dailies. Oh no! There's a supply quest that I can do as well. Arena cycle? Did I do that as well? Bang, bang, bang. Okay, that's all done. Oh, fuck. Okay, now that my war attack's done, I can also do my alliance quest for the day. Is it Raids Week? Is it Coliseum Week? I have no idea. Now it's time for me to do some incursions, because I completely forgot that that was a game mode that I can do. Okay, that's over with. I'm done. Wait, what is that? So now you're telling me I have to collect pieces for a champion, and there's a final champion? How long until that guy releases? A year? Okay, I guess it's time to distract myself with the new story quest that came out. Oh, and Necropolis 2 also released. Great. What the fuck is that thing? It has rewards. I guess I'm doing it. Do you kind of see the problem here? That is so much grinding, and I can't even say it's worth it because of the second aspect of this game, and that is, of course, the spending. I've been wanting to talk about this game's monetization for a while now, and it's really difficult, in my opinion, because there's just so much sensitivity around this topic, but here I go, I guess. I think it's clear to say that Marvel Contest Champions is a pay-to-win game. I mean, everything that I just explained with grinding, you can probably get in one $1,000 deal in April. So the underlying issue here is that you can just spend and completely negate grinding at all, which I think kind of sucks. I think that there should be a healthy balance between grinding and also spending to maintain the top of the game, but if you just spend like a couple $100s, you can get literally anywhere.
Tobias, what are you doing? Throwing money at the problem. Okay, money isn't the solution to every problem. It is if you've got enough.
So, I understand that Kabam has said before that the reason that their monetization is so heavily inflated is due to the fact that their premium currency can be obtained in Arena. Fine, that's completely fine. Then why did you put it in the Dazzler thing? Call that what you will, but I think it's a desperate attempt in order to get people to play the brand new mode. I don't like that, and it adds to just some more grinding elements because I didn't try it, but it looks like it takes a really long time. If it's like the Doom cycle, then yeah, it's going to take so much time, but at least you get units, and that's the best thing about this game. So like, why do you have a problem with units being in every game mode and then continue to put units in every game mode? And it's just going to keep increasing the prices, and it's just... What's the point of even grinding so much when you can just spend a couple $100s and get everything that you could have done by grinding literally instantly? In my opinion, it's just a very unhealthy balance between the two aspects of this game. But I think that spending is just so much worse now. So let's just take a look back and talk about the big deals, right? The $1,000 ones that you have to spend. I think back in the day, it used to be like 2 to 3 per year. I think in 2025, we got like 6, right? You had the Heart of Fire, the February deals, July 4th, Silver Samurai for some reason, and then also, of course, Banquet, which is, we'll talk about Banquet, but I don't like the fact that we're getting so many big deals where it feels like you have to spend $1,000 literally monthly in order to keep up. I really just think that increasing the amount of big deals per year is really accelerating the game's lifespan in an unhealthy way. And I don't think there's any better example than Banquet of 2025. Banquet is the culmination of big spending in this game, because unlike a bunch of other events, there's not really a cap as to how far you can go. You can buy as many of those Banquet crystals as you'd like, and as a result, the rewards are super juiced up. But I think this year, it just shows that this game is accelerating at such a rapid pace, because you want to look at what the top 3 got. A rank 6 Punisher, we don't even have rank 5s yet, or if we do, like a couple hundred of them got him in the Banquet of 2025. As of recording this segment, the only natural progression towards rank 5s has been Solo Coliseum. I guarantee there's probably going to be rank 5 stuff in 9.4, but it just feels weird to me how the top players are getting the next rank after we're just getting introduced to the previous rank. It just feels really rushed, and I really hope that spending doesn't continue down this path, because in no time at all, we're going to see 8 stars and 9 stars, and it sucks, man, that this seems like the direction that Kabam is going to go and continue to go. I'm pretty sure everybody knew that I was going to be talking about champions here. I mean, Marvel Contest Champions is made up of 4 words, and champions consists of one of those 4 words. So you could say that Marvel Contest Champions is 25% champions. And if you ask me, that point stands entirely true. If you think about it, I believe that the majority of people that play these Marvel games, whether that be Marvel Contest Champions or Marvel Rivals, are playing in order to capture that feeling of playing as their favorite Marvel character. I mean, if you think about it, you're most likely playing this game because it has the Marvel IP attached to it, so naturally you're going to want to play as the Marvel characters that were advertised to you, and you want it to feel like you're actually playing as those Marvel characters, you know? So now, putting everything aside, how does Marvel Contest of Champions perform in that regard? Well, this game's been around for 11 years, so I think you can say that they've been doing a really good job of that. Now, to really understand my current gripes with the champion releases over the last year, I'm going to break these down into 2 separate categories, those being the new releases and then also the buffs, because I can't go a single video without talking about champion buffs. So first off, let's talk about the newer champion releases. So I already talked about my gripes of the norm of 2 champions per month. I'm not going to get into that here because that was more or less in the quantity over quality section, but I want to look at how champions perform on their own in the actual game setting. And I have to say that the 2025 and 2026 champions have been the year of innovation. So what do I mean by that? I believe that this year and the last year have had so many more game mechanics that completely change core aspects of gameplay. So if you want to look at this graph here, it's kind of like triple the amount of new and inventive mechanics than as 2024. So I have nothing to complain about there. It is a great thing that we're getting these brand new innovative mechanics because it allows Kabam to really branch out and test new and inventive things previously never seen before by any characters. And it's really fun. However, as innovative as these mechanics are, the problem underlies with the year preceding it, and that was, of course, 2024, the year of the Defender. I think it is common knowledge now that in 2024, Kabam had the mindset of releasing very annoying Defenders. What the fuck? I was throwing the special attack button! Just die, kill me.
Fucking dickhead, bro. You got hit.
I'm dead ass, bro. You got shot. Ah!
And then immediately following that annoying Defender release, a couple months later, releasing the direct counter to said Defender. It has persisted ever since 2024, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. But unlike everyone else that's saying that 2024 was the start of this, I'd have to disagree. I think that the beginning of the end for this was actually in 2018. Now, I actually think the best example of this in 2018 was Korg, of all characters. Now, I know what you're probably saying. Come on, man. Korg is so free. Just light intercept him, and then you can avoid all of his mechanics. Do you really think light intercepting was normal in 2018? I mean, 2018 was a very different landscape. You gotta account for the fact that light intercepting was not a thing at all. Medium intercepting was still very much in its infancy, and we were getting new mechanics such as reverse controls, which nowadays seem really easy, but back in 2018, we were hoping for the sweet release of death. So going back to Korg now, he was the definition of everything 2018 players hated. You couldn't parry him, you couldn't do mediums for him, you only had to do light attacks, and then if you hit his block, he would punish you. So how are you supposed to actually deal with him? Literally a month later, we got Omega Red, and then in February 2019, we got Havoc. Both Omega Red and Havoc were released months after Korg, who released in August of 2018, and were solely designed to counter him. Doesn't that sound familiar to something? I think the best way to describe why characters like Korg kind of phased out, while characters like Serpent, who are well over a year old now, still demand very hard counters in order to deal with them, I think you have to look at a skill ceiling for this game. So what do I mean exactly? The skill ceiling, I think in 2018 was still growing. Obviously, we didn't know everything like light intercepting and medium attacks, but over time, as we grew as players, we learned that these light intercepts could be used, and eventually it just allowed us to counter characters like Korg. In 2024, I think we finally hit this game's skill ceiling, so I don't think that we can physically push this game any further than it has already been pushed. So characters like Serpent, who kind of fit the same stereotype as Korg, there is no way for us to grow past them because we hit this game's skill ceiling, so the defenders aren't going to naturally open up to different playstyles because we hit every single playstyle we possibly can. So yeah, having followed this game for so long, I think the release schedule of Annoying Defender, then Hard Counter to said Defender was inevitable. And now that it has happened, everyone kind of just dislikes it. So do I think that it's possible for us to break out of this Defender then Attacker loop? No. I do think in 2025, Kabam realized and tried to break away from that scenario with the innovative mechanics and stuff, but I think it's just a year too late. Because sure, we're getting these innovative playstyles, and sure, a couple of these characters do counter some of these old defenders, but with the original schedule of the Annoying Defender, then the Hard Counter, a lot of people are just going to look at the Hard Counter for the champion and realize, why would I use characters like Doctor Strange when Nico Minoru just counters literally everything that he does? You can kind of see it with the entire 2025 release schedule. A lot of these characters are kind of irrelevant and phased out of the meta, but the only people that really did succeed were either defenders or characters that were blatantly overpowered. Think Carolina and Nico. Nico succeeded because she was a hard counter to Serpent and just borderline broken in so many other categories, and Carolina Dean is the exact same way. Even though Carolina is, in my term, a pretty fun character with innovative mechanics involving the sun, she still has some very overpowered mechanics that kind of deal with a lot of the tech class, so naturally she blossomed. Again, I do think that Kabam has learned the right things from 2024 and are moving in a right direction. However, I do think that it is just one too late. I don't think it's really possible to move past 2024 and what that set for the game moving forward. Now, like I said, I split this into two categories for a reason, and that being, buffs are treated very differently to newer champion releases. Buffs, from what I heard, are handled by a completely different division of the game team, and in my opinion, I don't really think they work that much. I think that the buff program has always been kind of fragmented and disjointed with a bunch of different ideas, and they've never really been able to stick with one specific goal for the buff program. What do I mean by that? So what I mean is that literally every year of the buff program's existence, it has drastically changed, whereas newer releases have stayed the exact same throughout the entire duration of the contest. So we had stuff like the batches, we had the saga buffs, and it just changes very much. And I just kind of wish that we had like a strict goal with the buff program, because nowadays it seems like we're just getting like one overhaul a month, which is fine, but then you also have characters that just receive tune-ups randomly. I just wish there was a little bit more of a goal. Even years like 2021, which a lot of people unanimously agree is the best year of the buff program by an absolute landslide, I would have to say that this year was not that good. So what do I mean? Because obviously most of the buffs were absolute home runs and still have impacts in the game today. I think that this year sacrificed a lot of quality in order to maintain quantity of buffs. So a lot of people don't know this, but the buff program this year was designed by one person and one person alone. Every single buff was made by this one individual. So naturally you can anticipate that he was going to be working on these buffs really quickly and not really having enough time to playtest. So naturally, a lot of buffs this year, while they were good, had a plethora of bugs. Personally, a lot of the 2021 buffs felt like a quick draft in order to make the champion feel better without really playtesting to make sure that these champions weren't like game breaking. And I do believe that Kabam shared that sentiment. As much as I joke on the we want to focus on quality over quantity, I think that that's kind of in the right direction. They also said that they don't like that a lot of the buffs overshadow other buffs, so I was looking forward to when we moved to 1 or 2 buffs a month. I think 2023 was the best month. We had a much bigger team playtesting these champions, making sure that no bugs got through, and they felt a lot more meta relevant without just feeling like, let's make this champion better. No need to really look into anything else on how that affects the game. But it does feel like we're going back into that mindset as of 2025 and 2026. So we had that large batch in August where we got 9 buffs, and of that 9, can you tell me any of them that you remember? Because I sure don't remember most of them. And we are getting it again in March with the buffs of Vision Arcus, Emma Frost, Lady Deathstrike, and Korg. I don't really understand why we're getting so many buffs per month. Buffs take time, you know, and again, like they said themselves, having so many buffs really overshadows a bunch of others. I'm pretty sure that Lady Deathstrike and Vision Arcus are going to get overshadowed by Korg and Emma Frost. I mean, I really just wish that the buff program had one clear and concise goal similar to the newer releases, because as of right now, it just feels really scatterbrained with the buffs that we receive. It really just feels like Kabam sees champions that need a buff and decide, hey, we're gonna buff that champion this month. Not really any prior information, and it just really feels disorienting for me. Unlike the previous 2 chapters I talked about, I actually really like the champion releases and think that we're going into a pretty good direction for it. However, the years that preceded it kind of made it really difficult for Kabam to really focus on the innovative years, and I just really hope that they're able to break out of that, but I see that being very difficult, next to impossible. This one really sucks because Kabam is just full of so many talented and phenomenal game designers, and it really sucks to see how many bugs and controversies plague this game every single month. I'll talk about the bugs first because the controversies is a massive rabbit hole which will take a while to get through, but the goal of any game should not be to eliminate bugs, but instead to mitigate them. Because obviously, especially with a game of this size, it is going to be very difficult to get rid of bugs because every time you get rid of one, 2 more will take its place. It's like Hydra. I understand, at least here, because Marvel Contest Champions is a variety game with so much happening every single month, it's going to be a lot harder to monitor every single bug and counteract them, which is why so many of the brand new modes have released with so many bugs. I don't necessarily know how their bug team works. However, I think the most notable thing to mention here is the fact that the way that Kabam deals with bugs is by whenever a big one happens, the entire community complains, and after a while, Kabam will immediately see that, lock into that specific bug, and then fix it. Maybe dropping compensation after, I don't really know. Okay, so the speed that this game operates, that's completely fine. However, I don't think the game should be operating at this speed. I think we should have a couple months of downtime for Kabam to really focus on the game and give us a couple of months to relax. I think that would build a lot more hype for when we actually do get new releases and stuff like that. I just really wish we could dial back on stuff like this so that bugs like this don't happen every single month. Because every time we do get large bugs like this, it does stir up a large amount of controversy, which is the next thing I want to talk about here, because Kabam is synonymous with controversy at this point. I won't be the first to tell you this, but I do think Kabam has broken a lot of trust over the last few years because of everything that they're doing. There's kind of a little asterisk at the end of it. So everything that they have released, it's either been plagued with bugs or it's just been underdeveloped, so people get more and more upset. I think the most obvious point of this was September of 2025, which had so many controversies it is laughable. So you had your usual game shutting down, stuff like that, but every single change they made just seemed really off. So first off, you had the Rhino buff, which everyone agreed was terrible. I mean, it's still a running joke in Seaton's videos that everything is beyond Rhino tier. But the 2 biggest points of controversy here were the Prestige change and the Spider-Woman nerf. The Spider-Woman nerf I'll get into a little bit in the final chapter because it really fits more there, but the Prestige change I think is a good example of why this game stirs up so much controversy. Everything that Kabam has done that has stirred up so much controversy is really stemmed down to the fact that they are trying to branch out into completely different things. If you think about it, the Dimensional Arcade, this, and even old stuff like Patch 12.0, where they tried to completely overhaul the mechanics of this game. All of that has seen a large amount of controversy, and I think it's been seen so much more in 2025 because they are really focusing on that more innovative aspect of the game, completely changing so much of the core that we've come to love. But again, this game is 11 years old, it's very old, so obviously wanting to stick to the same thing over and over again for a variety game like this was never going to be an option. So naturally, we are going to see constant innovation, and I guarantee a lot of these brand new modes like the Fortress Assault and Collections, they are going to see their level of controversy, but I don't really think that there's anything that can be done to stop it at this point. It's really unfortunate that this game receives as much backlash as it does. Unfortunately, though, I do think that this was entirely self-inflicted by Kabam, and I kind of want to talk about that in my final point here, and that is, of course, one of the biggest issues that I have with Marvel Contest Champions flat out. So everything that I talked about prior to this chapter, I think can be perfectly summed up in this one example. Kabam really doesn't like to acknowledge stuff, and if they do, they immediately fold on stuff because the community got mad at them. I think that that is a terrible mindset for this game and its developers. So in order to really set the framework as to why I think that this is the way it is, I think we have to explain why I think that this game and its community are very symbiotic in terms of relationship. Kabam has set a very monetization-heavy game where there is a lot of grinding and personal connection to it. So when the community buys stuff for their favorite champion, they would expect that to remain the same. And I think Kabam noticed that, and that is why we never received stuff like nerfs. So because Kabam had that fear of nerfing characters because the community would get mad, the community naturally was tailored into thinking that the characters would never get nerfed because they would get mad if it would happen. So now we're in this stalemate where characters can never get nerfed without the community getting upset at it. Best example being the Spider-Woman nerf of 2025. This is why I wanted to talk about this here in Chapter 5 instead of Chapter 4, because I think it is the perfect example. The balance program was flawed to begin with. I'm glad that it's gone. But the underlying thing and the reason why the balance program was implemented is so that we could buff characters and nerf them accordingly. The nerfs have rarely happened, and the Spider-Woman nerf was the biggest example of that. They decided to nerf her in Snare because it was kind of annoying on defense and made her slightly better, according to Kabam at least. So they made a post saying that they were going to nerf her defensively and nothing was going to change offensively. However, people had a brain and realized that Ensnare works offensively too because of Okoye. This resulted in a massive backlash, obviously, and the results of all this were, 1, the Spider-Woman changes were completely changed to a different thing, and 2, the balance program was shut down. Now, I already said that I don't like the balance program, however, I do feel like it had potential, and I do wish that we got these types of nerfs. I don't like the fact that Kabam sees it necessary to never nerf characters, given how important nerfs are to maintaining game balance. Instead, constantly weaving in and around of annoying mechanics by limiting star rarities or just making characters that completely counter all those annoying mechanics. I think it is very frustrating, and especially the limiting star rarity completely changes and ruins my perspective of the game. Because let's say I really like a character like Dr. Doom. I can't use him because he's a 6-star. It really is unfortunate that we got to this point where Kabam is terrified of nerfing characters because of how the community will perceive it. And it really sucks that the community was fostered in a way to where nerfing characters is bad. I am of the full belief that if Kabam normalized nerfing very early in this game's lifespan, we wouldn't be at this point where they feel like they have to dodge it like it's the plague. But that's not the only thing I wanted to talk about here. No. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that Kabam makes a lot of promises and then tweaks it ever so much or just completely forgets about it. Now, I know that that could be seen as like a roadmap where not all roadmaps are seen fully through. However, I think Kabam doesn't really do it in a roadmap style, but instead they're like, this will come out in a month or two, and sometimes it'll just never come out at all, whereas roadmaps plan years in advance. Remember stuff like Galactus raids, point decay, even as far back as bases? Yeah, all of these never came to fruition, and it really sucks that they have these ideas and then they just completely forget about them. Especially stuff like point decay. I don't understand why we never got that to begin with. But then you'll also have weird stuff like this. So you know how Essentia just came out and it's meant to merge 3 currencies into 1? Yeah, that's cool. I actually like that because Kabam did promise that they were going to merge all currencies into 1 for a better experience. But that was with Radiant. Post-production ham here, I was actually wrong. Radiance was only meant to be a competitive currency. Whoops. You see what I mean here? Like, why would you introduce Radiance at all? If the goal was to condense currencies, why introduce a brand new currency first before introducing the currency that would combine the previously existing currencies? I don't see the point of having Radiance at all. Little stuff like this is why I really feel like Kabam, while a lot of these issues they try to act on, a lot of other things they just leave completely unchecked, and it leads to a lot more issues. And as a result, I think Kabam just has a lack of transparency that I wish they had more as a company. I know I talked for a while, so what is there to really gauge from this video as a whole? I think that Marvel Contest of Champions is an incredibly overstuffed game, and it's really frustrating to see how many elements we have and how much Kabam says that they're going to deal with a bunch of these issues, and then they ended up just folding and none of this ever really sees the limelight. But the really big question here is, do I think that these issues can be solved? And my answer is shockingly no. And I hate to say that because I'm a longtime fan of this game. I've played it for 10 years and I'm so passionate. I really want to see this game succeed. And I hope they're able to dig themselves out of the ditch they found themselves in. But it becomes increasingly difficult when it seems like every single month we end up strafing further away from what I feel made this game special. Anyway, like I said, Marvel Contest of Champions is overstuffed. I know that Kabam is never going to really fix that, but I really hope that they're able to make this work because I love this game. I just want to see it succeed. And there you go. That was the entirety of issues that I have with Marvel Contest of Champions. Like I said, this video isn't anything special or unique. A lot of people more qualified than me have talked about these issues, but I really wanted to just get my point out there and really make it known that Marvel Contest of Champions is a great game, and I want them to succeed. I really want them to, and I know I keep saying that, but it becomes increasingly difficult with all these issues. I hope I earned your subscription like I said in the beginning of the video, but other than that, I have nothing else to provide to you, and I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.